Hi, all. Welcome to Radiant Guidance. My name is Molly. I'm an astrologer bringing you temporal waves or the astrology forecast for August 2024. I will discuss the key themes of the month ahead, key dates to keep in mind, days of intensity, as well as days of harmony in this general collective forecast. If you would like a personal reading to understand your personal cycle timing and really just understand the soul map of your astrology chart better, you can book with me in the link below this video. Okay, so August is kind of following up with the intense political and public events that took place in July and kind of raising the ante. We have a lot of tense aspects in the month of August. We have many planets retrograde, and you could say tensions brewing in the cosmos, and perhaps a lot of disruptive energy. So it's not necessarily a great month for running around all over the place because you might just be experiencing delays and there might be just a lot going on in the collective. So if you can kind of lay low in August, I would highly recommend it. We've got Pluto, Neptune, Saturn, and Mercury all retrograde. Mercury technically turns retrograde on the 5th, but we are in the pre shadow, well into the pre shadow, which is usually a 2 week period prior to it turning retrograde, where we still experience delays, disruptions, and mishaps. And if you paid attention last month, we obviously had that major outage, and it wasn't even Mercury retrograde. But you could argue we were kind of nearing we were really close to the pre-shadow, and Mercury was squaring Uranus, which we will see again in August. But this time Mercury will be retrograde squaring Uranus. So there's a very high likelihood there's going to be another major disruption in communications or in perhaps electricity, the grid, something like that, with that square to Uranus and Mercury being retrograde. Mercury does turn direct on the 29th, so you can kind of look forward to September for charging ahead again on plans and taking tangible action that won't be frustrated or have some sort of confusion or error around it. Let's get into the key dates for August. So, I'm going to first go over the major lunations and then I'll talk about some of these exact aspects above my head here that hit us this month. So on August 4th, tomorrow, we celebrate the new moon in a tropical Leo in the sidereal zodiac. It will be occurring in the nakshatra Ashlesha, which actually is a Cancerian nakshatra about it's a clinging star, the clinging serpent, and it's all about poison, uh, facing our shadow, um, scheming and plotting, and really releasing, I would say, too. It's all about kind of understanding where our limitations are. And this new moon being opposite Pluto and trining Chiron, it could be a very purgative new moon, a good time for shedding. I've personally have also just experienced like a major purge leading up to this new moon. So perhaps some of you out there have already been feeling this energy. If you have, comment below. I'm always curious to know. But Ashlesha really shows us the power in being vulnerable. It's a star connected to kind of devious or like hidden or underbelly activities. It's also very connected to Tantra and occult activities. And so it's just asking us to really dig deep this new moon and see what we can release in order to come into greater healing. All new moons kind of have the theme of release or planting seeds. But this particular new moon, I feel like it's really more cleaning up, detoxifying, and not necessarily feeling like you've got to move forward on a plan, but uh, being strategic in what you can kind of unburden yourself with. On the 19th, we've got the full moon in Aquarius Danishta Nakshatra in Vedic sidereal zodiac. And Danishta is all about getting help from friends. It's a very favorable wealth kind of giving nakshatra. It's actually very associated with people who are in a lot of like wealth and power. And so it can be a good time to kind of plan goals. And since we're nearing the end of the retrograde, Mercury retrograde during this full moon, you might be putting together and having more kind of clarity around this time, especially with all this like time to think and feel potentially blocked this month. By the end of the month at this new moon, you might be having some new ideas that emerge from this kind of traffic jam of planets that occurs in August. So let's kind of break that down. On the 14th, we've got Mars exactly conjoining with Jupiter. Now, this is not inherently a stressful combination. It's actually not necessarily a bad yoga in Vedic astrology because Mars with Jupiter, they're friendly planets. Mars is the planet of war and aggression and action. And then Jupiter, of course, is philosophies, higher learning, um, abundance, healing. And so it's said with Mars conjunct Jupiter, it can be about fighting for what one feels serves the greater good. It's interesting that Chris Brennan noted Mars can join Jupiter during the capture and execution of Osama bin Laden in Pakistan. That was under a Mars Jupiter conjunction. So we can see themes of like resolution to war that feel like just in some way, or perhaps peaceful kind of resolutions are all kind of themes with Mars conjunct Jupiter. But it's not to say that there couldn't also be an increase, right? Because Jupiter can expand things of conflict. So something to keep in mind as we roll through some of these other exact aspects. So the following day, the 15th, we've got a Mars square to Saturn. These are the two malefic planets in astrology. And luckily, it's a short lived transit because Mars transits aren't very long. But Mars squaring Saturn can definitely create a block of energy or the idea that a group of people's will is stifled from some higher power or some greater authority, right? It could also just on a psychological level be a feeling of push pull, of one not feeling maybe motivated or feeling their motivation has this like wet blanket of Saturn thrown on it. On August 19th, we've got Jupiter squaring Saturn. So this is kind of like in line with that feeling of expand and contract. So if you're feeling that way this month, like your will kind of feeling stifled, know that this is a collective theme that many are feeling and transmuting and going through. And so rather than pressuring yourself to move forward on something, maybe use this as like an incubation period, kind of chrysalis to clarify your goals, clarify what it is you need, and not, again, not feel pressure to be running yourself ragged. You might actually, there could be something, I'm not affirming this, but there could be something that causes you to force you to slow down, whether it's a transportation or communication issue, a just reduction in your feeling of well-being or vitality, where you have to go inward and you're forced to slow down. Speaking of which, I'm gonna get a drink of water. So again, these are collective themes. And then on the 22nd, my head's blocking it, but we've got Mars squaring Venus. Again, another short-lived transit, but it is an exact aspect that we have this month. So as you can see, most of the exact planetary aspects this month are kind of stressful. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We also have Mercury Kazemi on the 18th. Kazemi is in the heart of the sun. It's an Arabic term. And so this is a enhancement of mercurial energy, you could say. When we have planets retrograde in Vedic astrology, they consider that to be an intensification of that planetary energy. And so I think of a Kazemi almost as like it's like a flash, right? So there could be like a flash of insight, a kind of sudden urge to communicate something, an idea that you get. So write it down. This could be a very introspective, reflective month. And I always find that Mercury retrograde is a great time to channel. Like I get some of my best creative ideas when Mercury goes retrograde. I might have months where I feel kind of blocked, and then a retrograde comes, and all of a sudden I'm flooded with these ideas that I felt really disconnected to in other times. So that's something I really appreciate about retrograde and really honor and look forward to. Let's get into the days of intensity. I just want to know I'm trying to make these shorter. So if you have a preference on if you like them longer or shorter, I always try to keep them under 20 minutes. My friend said, "Oh, you should make them 10 minutes," but it's kind of hard to convey all the information in under 10 minutes in a thorough way. But comment below if you have some ideas on that. So the days of intensity are August 10th, the 13th, the 15th, and the 19th, the 22nd, and the 23rd. These are not the days to, especially the 13th and 15th, if you can avoid any high risk taking activity or any life or death procedure, I would highly recommend it. Of course, to each their own, and we're all, on our own timelines, but these particular days are very stressful. That's why I have little hazard signs next to them. So, the moon's debilitated on the 13th and squaring Venus. It's also opposite Mars and Jupiter, and it's squaring Saturn. So it's just going to be hard to move forward with something. This is creating a stressful T square. And so there's stifled energy with the moon squaring Saturn and also opposing Mars. On the 15th, we've got Mars squaring Saturn. Again, that kind of blocked energy, and Mercury squaring Uranus. Mercury will be in that square to Uranus a few days of the month, like in really close orb. And again, this could be some sort of like communication mishap, or perhaps like since all this political stuff going on, perhaps someone says something that has permanent repercussions, like unfixable repercussions with the square to Saturn and Mercury squaring Uranus. Like that could be like a slip of a tongue or an error that has like dire consequences. I don't really want to think of morbid examples, but I'm just thinking of like Mercury squaring Uranus, Mars squaring Saturn. Like someone forgets to do some safety check on a ride at a theme park, and then a bunch of people get into this like horrible accident. Like it's just a very stressful combination of tense aspects with planets that you don't want to be in tense aspect. On August 19th, we've got Jupiter squaring Saturn and Venus opposing Saturn. This could be a stressful time for relationships or finances. Perhaps you get the realization that you need to like budget better or utilize your resources in a different way under this kind of configuration. On August 22nd and 23rd, Mars squares Venus. That's, of course, the tension between the active and the passive that we saw echoed with so many other squares this month. So again, if that you're feeling that like kind of inertia between like push and pull, like to go and to stop, or to like make forward action, or to like really think about it, I say when in doubt, just rest. I think with this retrograde, the knowing will come to you. So don't pressure yourself to take any permanent action. Let's get into the days that we can potentially get shit done this month, the days of harmony. So, on the 7th of the month, we have a harmonious trine of the moon to Uranus and Pluto. The sun is sextiling Jupiter, and Mercury is with its friendly planet of Venus. This is a really beautiful social kind of day, a good day for a party or a gathering. The moon is in Purva Falguni Nakshatra, which is great for artistic endeavors, for sensuality, amusement, dealing with people in power, getting favors from people in power, using persuasion, and also, yeah, like I said, any of those kind of like creative things like singing or expressing oneself. So having like a performance on this day, going to a party, hosting a party. It's also not bad for buying property. Again, Mercury's retrograde. I wouldn't recommend it, but if you have to, or if you work in some industry where you have to make a big purchase, the 7th and also the 8th are good for that. The 8th, we've got the moon in Uttara Falguni, which is a nakshatra auspicious for sexual activities, moving or buying homes, anything career related or business related, or any diplomatic type of things or religious ceremonies. So the moon is trining Mars and Jupiter, and the sun is sextiling Jupiter, and we also still have that Mercury conjunction to Venus. On August 24th, we've got a Bharani moon sextiling Saturn, trining Venus, and this grand trine of Venus, Uranus, and Pluto. Very transformative energy with that Venus, Uranus, Pluto trine, grand trine, like positive transformation of our values, our resources, our relationships. And Bharani is a nakshatra that is actually destructive. So it's really good for like working with fire or doing something where you're like getting rid in order to pave the way to build something, especially with the moon sextiling Saturn. So maybe a time to do remediation on a land or cut some trees down or literally like excavate a site that you're going to build on metaphorically or literally. On August 25th, we've got the Kritika moon sextiling Saturn, trining Venus, and this grand trine of Venus, Uranus, Pluto. So Kritika is anything that pierces through to the truth. So it's a great nakshatra for debating and using kind of our sharp tongue to get what we want or to cook or do anything that involves sharp objects. Like I think of, yeah, like cooking, building, some like using sharp tools, sewing. It's also good for starting education. So if there's like a class you want to take or something you're going to enroll in, this might be a good time to send that application or send the payment to enroll in the class. Again, we're entering the fall cycle, so this is a time where a lot of schools start up. So that might be a good date to get your paperwork in, etc. And again, we're in retrograde, but we're nearing the end of it. On the 29th it ends. Finally, the last date I have is the 31st. My head is blocking it, and the moon is in Pushya, which is a star of nourishment, and it's actually a Cancerian nakshatra. So the moon is in its own domicile, conjunct Mercury, trining Chiron, sextiling Jupiter, and we have Venus trining Jupiter and Pluto. This is a great day for nourishment, receiving support that you might need. It's good for receiving legal assistance, getting over adversaries, gardening, taking care of an animal, healing and nurturing activities, getting guidance. So if you've got a special therapy or healing appointment you want to make this month, the 31st would be a really good day for that. And you will need it after this month because, as you can see, it's a very heated month. If you guys have any notes, any comments about the forecast for the month ahead, your own predictions, please comment below, like the video, share if you found it useful. And of course, if you want a reading, reach out. I've got many classes and other offerings on my website, www.radiantguidance.com. Thanks for tuning in. Have a beautiful month.